Hey YouTube, it's Elvis Ammo here. Hey, today it's obvious that I'm going to be separating some wheel weights, and I get questions all the time, about separating the wheel weights. Do you get the zinc out of it, or do you just put it all in a pot together? Well, the way that I do it is I take all the zinc out of it, and the steel and the plastic and anything else that don't belong in there. And the second thing that I do that's very important, if you want to have control of your lead, is first thing that I do is you can see I got a bucket of it. I just poured it out on the table, and first thing that I usually do is I just go ahead. Well, let me just say, for one thing, this might look like a slow process here on video, and it's minorly slow process, but the secret is to do it a lot, and the more that you do it, the faster that you'll get, because you'll be able to notice immediately whenever you pick up one of these wheel weights whether it's lead or not, because you'll become an expert in looking at it and telling. Now, that's not altogether true. You still are going to test your lead. I use little snips like this, and I just put it in there. That way I just give it a little twist. That way both of my hands are working. And you see that big gouge in there? That's lead. I throw that in my big bucket, and and then these most of your stick-on weights, most of them, there are some that are other things, but most of these are lead, and I can tell by looking at them. Usually, every once in a while, they throw me for a loop and throw something new in there. But you see how soft these are? You can just cut it right in half. See? Very soft lead. So what I do with this, if you want to be able to control your lead and make softer lead when you're loading your ammunition, then you want to separate all of this. Take all this soft lead, and I just put that in a smaller bucket because there's less of it. Alright? So I just take all of these stick-on weights that are real soft like that, and sometimes you got to double check them. They come in all different sizes. Now see this one right here? Now this is some stick-on wheel weights, and it's kind of hard for me to tell because there's a glare from my position right here, but I don't know if you can tell. It has a FE. I can't see nothing. It has an FE on it. That's steel. Alright? So I don't even need to test these, but if you did want to test them, you could just tap them. See? Or, you could have a hammer laying out, and you can tap that on there compared to this lead. It's a little duller sound. That's steel. So we got to get rid of all of this. Alright? So you put this in the junk bucket. Alright, so separating wheel weights. Take our stick-on soft lead. All of our stick-on weights are soft. Now here's another one. It's steel. I didn't have to test it to know, because I can tell. See? And you will too. Here. That's steel. Throw that in the other bucket, junk bucket. You can use it for scrap metal. Make some money. Now these are soft, I can tell they are, but you can see I cut it right in half. So the first thing I usually do is just go ahead and get all my stick-ons out of it, for the most part, like this. It's just a process that I use. No good you can do it however you want. Oh, I just threw that. That's steel. Or is it zinc? All I know is it's not lead. That could be a zinc one right there. Usually the zinc, I'll show you one real quick. We'll just grab one out. There's steel again. It has a FE on it. Get rid of it. There's a steel clip-on weight. So you can take your hammer. Here. That's steel. That's no good. And if it's soft lead, you see how you can just cut right into it? That's soft lead. So that goes in our good bucket. And this is how I separate them. Soft lead goes in a separate bucket. When I say soft lead, I'm referring to all the stick-ons. Right in the bucket. This is soft. I just dug into it. And I'll keep going, and I'll just let you see. Now that was a clip-on, so it went into the bigger bucket. I'll keep all that separated. I'm just going to keep going just like this, and that way you can see exactly how I do it. Soft. Okay, that one felt a little funny. Just be sure. Yep, okay, we're good. That's lead. Sometimes some of them are a little harder than others, and you just got to double check. There's no secret to it. Okay, see, that one feels a little bit harder. I'm like, yeah, let's see. Yep, we're good, we're lead. And I just keep on going. Now I know I done said that I always separate these out first, but just for informational sake, this is how I separate the soft lead. I can look at that and tell that stick-on, I know what they look like because I've looked at a bunch of them. So that's soft lead. And then when I come up on one that is not, I can usually tell right away. But not always. See, it's soft lead. Taking all the stick-ons out. Whatever system you want to use, it don't matter. As long as you got a product going this direction, then you're progressing. So I felt like I had to do this video because, now see this one? That one's steel. Alright, that goes in the junk. That's steel. That's why you got to keep an eye out. And you kind of become a little bit of an expert, you know, as you're cruising along. And the one thing that you don't want to do whenever you're separating wheel weights, and I've got a pot sitting over here next to me, and I haven't fired it up yet, but I'm going to, because I'm going to let you see the process, and I don't want to keep you too long watching the separation process, but this separation process is probably the most important part. Now this one right here that I picked up, now as I told you guys before, you know, in my videos where I have these big lead hauls that I get about 80% lead and, you know, 20% junk. Here in South Carolina where I get my wheel weights, that's about the percentage. As you've seen, I was just separating all this lead out and hadn't come across much except for a little bit of steel, a few pieces, and here's a zinc piece. Now you can also tell the sound of it compared to, I don't know if you can hear it or not. Sometimes you can just tap your hammer with it. That's lead. Let's see if zinc sounds a little sharper sound. That's zinc. I want you to see that. It has a ZN on it. I really hope you can see this because, man, I am glared all up right here. It has a ZN right there. That's so it's written on there that it's zinc. Okay, so if you miss that one, you're in trouble. All right. Now this one, I can tell that it's steel just by the way it looks because this clip is welded on, and there it is. It has a FE written on it. So it's written on there saying that's steel, buddy. So you throw that out. That's so far as, you know, it's kind of elementary. I'm putting my stick-ons. Now this right here, I can look at it because, like I said, you become somewhat of an expert. Now that is zinc. And it has a Z on it and a ZN. Yep, there's a ZN on there. That's zinc. Now here's the problem. If you get steel mixed into your batch, it's not going to be a problem at all because the steel will never melt. You'll never get this pot hot enough for the steel to melt. Alright? So you don't have too much to worry about other than it just clutters up your batch, right? But the zinc, it will melt at, you know, another 150 degrees or so. So if you get your pot too hot and you have some zinc in there and that zinc melts, it's going to mess up the whole batch. You got to throw it all away. And that's if you know it got melted in there, because it will not mix in that lead and it'll mess up the whole pot. Don't even try to save it if that happens. I've never had that happen, by the way, if that's any hope at all for you. Alright, now what I do is when I'm heating up my pot, I usually keep a close eye on my pot so that I'm mixing it up, and as soon as it's melted, that's when I want to get it inside my forms right away. And that way it ensures that I don't need to put a thermometer in it or anything, because if that lead just finally gets done melting it and you're mixing it around a little bit from time to time, then the temperature is never going to reach the melting point of zinc, so therefore you're more likely to catch a piece of zinc in your pot. And what I mean by that is you will be, you know, mixing up your pot, and I can tell this is zinc by looking at it, and it don't have a ZN on it. Alright, I just know that's zinc. Alright, I've seen them before a lot of times. So, and you can see it's hard to cut. I'm gonna just try to cut into it. Really all I've done right there is kind of scrape the paint. Okay, so it's really hard, but it can be a little tricky sometimes if you're not careful. See, it's got I'm pretty much just scraping the paint and digging in a little bit because it's pretty soft, but not near as soft as lead. So here's what happens. Let's say this one escapes and gets into my big bucket that I put in my pot, and I'm watching my pot closely as I'm stirring it. I can catch this piece of lead. See, I mean this piece of zinc in there. See, with my spoon, I'll feel it in there. Or, well, you don't have to really feel it in there. It floats right to the top. So you can pretty much just be skimming on the top and find this before it melts in your pot if you're attentive to your pot. Alright, enough of that. I'm going to be getting into that in a minute when we do our melting. But that's zinc. It goes in the trash. Alright, so here's soft lead going. I'm putting my soft lead in. I'm separating my steel out. And I always melt my soft lead wheel weights down separately, and I make separate ingots with it. And that way, like I said, I can mix my lead to different softnesses and hardnesses, and come up with some really good bullets. But the main thing, if you mix up and get a piece of steel in there like that, it's just you're not gonna melt it anyway. And I can look at that and know it's steel too. Like I said, half of the battle is of separating wheel weights. First thing you should do when you first start separating wheel weights, take your time. Alright? It won't be long and you'll be somewhat of a professional, and you'll be doing just like this. I see that one right there. What's that? See, sometimes they can fool you. Sometimes you gotta keep a close eye. You know what? Sometimes it'll fool you so badly that you're not sure. If you're not sure, just go ahead and throw it out, because there's not many of them I'm not sure about. but every once in a while there is. That one right there is zinc. I know by looking at it that that's zinc, and you will too. It's one of those things, when you keep doing it, you'll figure it out pretty quick. You can see, so I'm just putting a little cut in there. I'm not using a lot of force with my hand and wearing myself out or anything like that. You know, some people, you know, might use a chisel and prop it up somewhere and tap it on the chisel and see if it cuts. And there's lots of different ways, and you can do them. You know, you'll find your own way of separating these out. So I'm gonna keep separating these, but like I said, the main thing is you want to get the zinc out. That's all. And you know what? Probably out of that steel, probably out of maybe 600 pounds, I might have like 2 or 3 wheel weights that are either steel or zinc that I find. But that's enough for me to know that I'll have to throw my whole pot away if I don't catch it. So what I do is I'm just attentive to my pot. That's all I am. So I watch that pot, and I don't let it get all the way melted down before I come over there to hit it with the spoon and see, you know, if it's all melted down. You want to be attentive to it. Watch it constantly. It's not that big of a deal. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to keep doing these weights right here. So I'm putting just little cuts in there. Just picking them up and putting a cut in it. You know, you get a pretty decent deep cut there. See? And if it does that, and if it don't do that, take a closer look at it and say, huh, does it have a FE? Sometimes like this one right here is pretty tough. I'll take and I'll just kind of cut the corner off a little bit. Say, huh, okay, yep, so that's good. So a lot of them though, they just see that looks like zinc because of the paint that's on it, right? But sometimes they'll fool you. See, when I see one like that that's painted, I always take a closer look at it, and that's lead. But some of them are just that close. There's a FE on that one. It's a piece of steel, and you can always tell because the steel has this like welded on look to it, where the clip is welded on, versus see, now here's a zinc and here's a lead. See, this one it's not painted or anything, and the clip is molded into the lead. But now this one is painted, but the clip is still molded into the lead, into the zinc. See, that's got a ZN on it. So those are the little differences. Now this one right here, now that's plastic. They even have plastic wheel weights. It's literally just a piece of plastic. Just a dense piece of plastic with a clip on it. Weird stuff, man. There's another one. Piece of plastic. It's a plastic wheel weight. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and continue separating out a little bit of these, and then when I bring you back, I'll have some of these in the pot, and we'll go ahead and then I'll show you how I heat them up in the pot to make ingots, and I'll show you what I use for forms to pour the lead in. So, alright, so here we are. This is the pot. I just got another old pot right here, and here's all the clips. It all melted already. It didn't take long at all. Now this is that high pressure pot. You can see all the clips. See how it just floats right to the top here. See that? It literally just powders right up and just goes right in here. See? There's nothing wet on my spoon. Now if you keep your spoon hot inside the lead, everything just falls right off of it. Now I'll tell you what had happened. I got a phone call, and which tells you, see all this stuff, it just comes right off and the lead falls right through. That's just an old slotted spoon. You scrape all this stuff off of it like that. Alright. Just like that. It just comes out dry. This stuff, everything just floats right to the top of this. Alright? You have no worries. Now I had this pot turned up pretty high. It's this, well, I'm not going to lift it right now, but you'll see it whenever I lift the pot off, what kind of pot it is, or what kind of burner it is. Now I've got two fans going. I've got one fan right here, and I've got another fan down that way, and that's blowing this direction. So I'm not getting, nothing's hitting, the heat's not even hitting me, because I got wind blowing all directions. You don't want to be smelling this stuff. Now this right here is a piece of zinc. Alright, now I got a phone call, and I'm talking on the phone, trying to separate weights, trying to get the pot hot. See, this thing is just sitting in there, and because I didn't let the temperature get too hot, I didn't have to worry about that zinc. That's a piece of zinc right there. And but I had no worries at all, because it didn't have a chance. You can see on it has a ZN, if you can see it. Alright. Now, once you get this pot done like that, then you want to flux this pot, and what it's going to do is it's going to allow you to have a better alloy, a nice cleaner alloy, as you put it into your melting pot, your bottom pour pot, or your ladle pour pot, whatever you're using to make your bullet molds. So let me get some sawdust. So now what I do is I just go ahead and take up some sawdust, and I'll put it right in the pot. That's probably too much, but you can't have too much, but you probably don't need to have that much. All right, so you let that sawdust go ahead and burn off. Now a minute ago, the wind was blowing real hard in the opposite direction, and that's why I set everything up like I did. You want to set it up with the wind. Now what that sawdust is doing, it's fluxing the lead so that you get all the impurities out of the lead, all right? And then you get what they call a dross on the top. And sometimes it'll even catch on fire, and that's good too. That's just fine, when the temperature is up. I just like mixing it in there a little bit. You don't have to. You can just let it sit there. but nothing really is going to mix with the lead, so you don't really have any problems. Everything floats to the top of lead. Lead is the heaviest of the metals, so I guess if you like heavy metal, then we're good. If you're a heavy metal kind of guy, all right. So you see, this is all turned into just burnt charcoal. All right, we're just going to go ahead and take that right off the top and throw it into the bucket. Now all that stuff that I was just taking out of there was just the wheel weight, you know, the clips from your wheel weights, your steel clips on your lead, and it just melts right out of there, and all those steel clips float to the top, and they all come out, and they're hot, of course, so you put them inside something metal, or it don't really matter however you do it, but you want to take them to the scrap guy, or that's what I do. Just save up whatever little bit of metal that I get. I always have some kind of scrap that goes with it anyway, and so you don't have to be perfect here. However much attention you want to give this is up to you, but it has to be done either now or whenever you got it in your pot. You don't have to worry too much with it. That's really good enough, but I'm going to take and just give it one more skim, just like that. I'm just skimming off the now some of this shiny stuff that's in here, you really don't want to take it out. That's your tin and antimony, so you don't want to do too much. This little skin up here, you don't want to throw all that away. Alright? You want to keep that. So now we're going to make some ingots. Now when I do that, I put heavier gloves on. Alright. So I just use my welding gloves. Matter of fact, sometimes if I can get my hand in there with these gloves on top, I'll do that. And here's my mold. I'm just going to sit that. I'm just going to sit my mold down right there, and put these heavy gloves on, and just for the sake so we can hear each other, or you can hear me, I'm going to turn that burner off. But here we go. Right in. I usually like to pour it slow. There ain't no sense in splashing nothing. That's it. And that's about a, you can see I've got some steel thread bar there, and I just like to make sure that this is nice and secure on there. So you know, you don't want this thing to fall over, that's for sure. So there's my ingots, and while those are cooling off, and I'll show you how to dump those, I'll talk about something that I know I'm going to get questions about. This is one of the things I get a lot of questions about. You know, people ask me, you know, what kind of ingot mold do you have? You know, what do you use? And I have an extra one of these. I'm not sure, I might have a couple of extra one of these, because these are just wonderful. You would think that a Teflon pan like this would be destroyed after a little bit of ingot pouring, and it's just not true. I don't know how they hold up so well, but they do. But this is called a Wilson. I'll let you see it. That way, if you need to pause the video, but this is called a Wilson 8-cavity mini loaf pan, and I got these at online at K-Mart. All right, and let's see. 8-cavity mini loaf pan, and I think there's some of them that have more cavities than this, but these are like the 2 by 3 inch cavities. But it's a 8-cavity mini loaf pan made by Wilson, and it's very important that you get the Wilson, because if you get the cheapies, they're not going to hold up. They're just going to fall apart whenever, as soon as you, that stuff weighs a lot, and these are heavy duty. I mean, these are heavy. All right, you get a lot for your money. I think they're 12 or 13 bucks a piece. I can't remember for sure, but you get a lot for your money with these. And they become 3-pound ingots, and most of you guys have seen my ingots. You know, my lead wall ingots. When you see me casting lead, you'll see all them ingots. They're 3 pounds a piece. So that's 3 times 8. All right. So this becomes really heavy. So it don't usually take these very long, you know, to set up. Like I said, this is one of the questions that I get a lot, you know. But I really needed to make you guys separate some wheel weights and make some ingots. I get questions all the time, and I'm ashamed of myself that I have just tons and tons of lead ingots, and I have never done a video on separating wheel weights. Nothing official, that is. So that's my form. That's the system that I use. This is this burner is one of those called the high pressure burners with this little center thing. I mean, it just blows that flame, you know, right up the center. And I'm telling you, by the time I took a phone call, I was itching to get off the phone. I'm like, man, this stuff's melting down. It melts fast. You can crank that puppy up with this thing. So anyway, let's see what our ingots look like. I just take my spoon and just kind of touch them. They're still soft, but it don't, I mean, you could technically dump them, you know, even right now. You know, a lot of times when I'm working with them, I'll cool them by, you know, just kind of moving them aside. I'll go ahead and just let you take a look at them. There they are. There's my ingots. Now they wasn't perfectly straight on the ground right there. I usually have them a little better, you know, level ground. But that's it right there. And with this pan, I don't know how many ingots I made in this particular pan. I mean, it's heavy. It's really heavy. And it is very hot. They're very hot. That's why I got gloves on and welding gloves, doubled up. When you're handling this pot, you want a double glove. Sometimes if I can't get my gloves like I did this time, I just kind of force my hands in here. But If I can't get my hand and my glove in there, I'll usually use my welding gloves with pot holders on top of that, or towels or anything that won't drop down into the flame as I'm picking up my pot. So let's go ahead and dump this out. You guys, I don't know if you can see very good right there, so I'll move you out a little bit. I'll just move this board right here out. Like that. You can see that now. It's hard for me to see. It's a real bad glare. So here we go. Just like that. Nice and clean every time. That's why I said Wilson Mini, these things are just awesome. And I mean, you can see in there. So take a look. There they are. There it is. I mean, they look good. I mean, they're beautiful. Look at them things. I mean, that's just like magic. Got beautiful ingots. I mean, it took no effort at all to do that right there. And it's getting kind of heavy holding it up. That's going to be some good bullets. Alrighty, guys. Well, I just wanted to give you you know how quick it was, but as quick as I could get a little bit of information out and let you see what's going on. But there you go. That's me. I separate my wheel weights. It's a no-brainer. Don't put the zinc in there. Get that zinc out. If it's soft, if you can cut into it, it's usually lead. So don't let the zinc get in there. But if you do, whenever you got this is really the secret, is if you're attentive. Now you seen with all the crap I got going on, I ended up putting a piece of zinc in there somehow. I probably ended up just throwing a piece of zinc inside because I didn't have my system going. So I just threw a piece of zinc inside my good lead pot. So it went in there, but see, I caught it. You know, as that stuff gets soft on the bottom of your pot, take your spoon, give it a mix, and guess what? Everything starts floating to the top. You're like, okay, all these steel clip-on weights, all these steel clip-ons are floating up to the top, and then all of a sudden you see all that steel clip-on, all them steel clips. That's how your wheel weights stay on. All these things start floating to the top of your lead because they're lighter than lead, a lot lighter than lead. So then what you find is, it's like, okay, here's a wheel weight. Now that thing's supposed to be melted, and you know right away something ain't right. So that's all you got to do. When that stuff starts getting liquid on the bottom, just go ahead and give it a little bit of stir. That way, those other wheel weights get down in there. The temperature never rises up high enough to melt anything but the lead. And if you make a mistake, you just catch it. Always wear eyes. Always put eye protection on. And when you're over this pot, wear yourself a mask. All right. So obviously it's hard to talk with a mask on your face, but I have all these fans going. I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this a bunch, and I've got, I got the wind on my side, the fans going. Protect yourself. It's not a big deal. Just do it right. Always downwind. Get you a fan exhaust. Get you a fan blowing behind you. Protect yourself. But there's no dangers at all. Just do this right. Now, as far as the sawdust goes, you can, if you don't have any sawdust, I'm cutting stuff all the time, so I got a collection of it. I just take my bag underneath my, from my table saw or whatever, and I've got sawdust. But you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's, ask them for sawdust. They'll give you a big bag of it. Give it to you. And that's how you use for flux. That's all you need. You don't need to buy nothing. And you know, as far as a pot goes, cast iron is the way to go, guys. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people out there say a lot of different things, and I've seen a lot of mistakes. And Fortune Cookie 45 LC even has a pot that failed that everybody said wouldn't in a video. So anyway, there we go. YouTube, I got me some beautiful ingots. I'm gonna make me some fine bullets, and I will see you guys in the next video.